And what happened was within that little division, that division eventually spread and almost undermined the whole project of rebuilding the wall. A small group of people who should have been owning the vision, Jewish people who should have been about God's glory and about what God was doing in the wall, they said, I'm not on board, I'm opposed to this vision. And that small group, those nobles, almost undermined the whole project of rebuilding the wall. And it's the same thing today. And maybe you've been there. It was what was going on down the hall didn't match what was hanging on the wall. Maybe you went to a workplace, your first day on the job, they sold you a bill of goods. Here's what we believe. Here's our mission statement. Here's our values. And then the next day you get to work and you realize these people say they're in it for others, but they're really in it for themselves. This is what they say their values are. This is how they're actually behaving. And they sold me a bill of goods. And there was a discrepancy between what they said and how they were behaving. They weren't on board with the vision. Or maybe you were dating someone, and when you first started talking on their first date, they were on their best behavior, okay? And you thought, wow, this is God's man, this is God's woman for my life. And then one day, unscripted, you kind of caught them maybe talking to their mom on the phone, and you said, well, that's not who I thought he really was. Or maybe he says something or she says something on one of your dates and you realize where he's going with this relationship and where I thought we were going with this relationship, they're not the same thing. There's a discrepancy. And that disunity and that division will kill what you believed God's will for your marriage was or God's will for that dating relationship was. It may be with your marriage. You're headed one direction and you're thinking, if we do this and this is going to restore and strengthen our marriage. But your spouse, your husband or wife is over here and she's working or he's working against you. That sideways energy, preventing you from doing what you know God has called you to do. And it doesn't take much. It doesn't take a large number of people. That disunity will kill the vision. Even happens in church. Hopefully not this church, but maybe this church. You may have come to a church and when you got there, you thought, you know, I know how churches are supposed to go. I mean, I've been to a lot of churches, and I know what pastors are supposed to do, and I know what kind of things the staff are supposed to do, and I know what ministries should exist, and I know what ministries shouldn't exist, and I know how long the preacher needs to preach, and I know how the carpet needs to be, and I know how we need to spend money. And all of a sudden, you get into that church, and the longer you stay there, you begin to realize the trajectory of this church is not the trajectory of where I thought there was, that I think we should go. And all of a sudden, there's competing visions. There's misalignment. And sometimes it's no big deal. Sometimes it is a big deal. Sometimes it's no big deal in your family. Sometimes it'll ruin your family. Sometimes it's no big deal in the marriage. Sometimes it'll ruin your marriage. Same with your finances. Same in the workplace. Same in the church. Visions thrive in an environment of unity and alignment. But visions will die a slow and painful death in an environment of disunity and division. And that's what you see in Nehemiah chapter 5, verses 1 to 5.